Hey, you guys, I mean, just the one thing I loved about that win was just how excited you guys were, and you specifically after the game. I mean, can you just take us back and just kind of tell us how it felt and what it meant?
Well, it was a big victory. These kids have, there's just a handful of kids on this team that have played in a snap that has involved a Pac-12 victory, and you have to win in your league, and you talk about it all the things and all the time. But the bottom line is they accomplished something that they hadn't for a long period of time, and so it was awesome to see the smile on those kids' faces when it finally happened, and they've worked their tails off every week to be prepared and go out and fight. But those are special moments, and the best way I said it is what I really said after the game is, that's one I'll never ever forget. Just it was so genuine that we did it, and it was in their faces. So it was a special time. There's no doubt about it. It was at the end of the day, it's a victory in the Pac-12, which is big because we had to have one for so long. But now, you obviously got to keep your sight on what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to build is to string some of those together. But that was a very exciting time, and to do it at home in front of the crowd, it was special. And you're right, the way the game went. It was a crazy Pac-12 game. It was, we had control out of the game, and we lost control in the fourth quarter, and our kids bowed up, and they didn't look down and say, woe is me, or here we go again. They found a way to make a couple plays to win the game, which was great to see.
Let's say, let's go back to last Wednesday. You get off the air with us, and you're like, man, that Isaac and Suk, they're great. But then you go into a coaching meeting with all your coaches, and somebody walks in and says, you know what, Coach? I've got it. You're going to run for you're going to rush for 474 yards and 6 touchdowns. What on earth would you have said?
Probably need to go home and get some sleep. That coach.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. Yeah. How on earth do you explain that?
Well, first of all, the kids made unbelievable plays, and it was a team effort on offense when you look at it. And we had some very good schemes. I think the coaching staff did a nice job of, trying to take advantage of our positives and what we thought could potentially be deficiencies on the other side. But past that, there was great runs, absolutely. There was great blocking with the offensive linemen up front. But the big runs that kept on going and going, there were sustained blocks for long periods of time, 4, 5, 6, even sometimes 8 or 9 seconds down the field as Ryan was running and making those big plays. So it was a complete team effort on that side of the ball, and I think it was a case in point that matchups are always very important in the game of football. Certain matchups work at different times, and certain matchups don't work. And it was a spot that we thought we would be best served if the box stayed the way it was and the way they were playing us, that we should be able to get some runs and some scenarios. But the kids executed and played and did a great job. But the extra effort plays there were awesome, and they sustained them. I think we've played with great effort, but those really showed up, and they were able to sustain those blocks to get those big runs to take place. And big moment, big situation, and they got it done. I was very proud, and it was fun to watch.
Is the biggest thing about a win like that the guys getting a taste and sort of creating a true belief in moving forward now? I mean, how tangible is a belief that we can win now that they've had a taste of it?
Oh, I think it's big. You talk about it all the time and how to close out a game, and we talk about getting checkmate, which checkmate for us is the game the play that basically won the game, and this one went down to the very last play, obviously. But the flows of that game were so big, and to know that you can hang in there and win, and to know as a coach and a player, and I believe Beaver Nation, that as these kids see it'd be so good, and then it kind of gets taken away from them, gets put into overtime, and they still have the focus and the guts and the want to and the care factor and the belief that they can still keep fighting and do their job and don't start pressing. A lot of times when we're where we are, you see kids get in that environment and they press and they got to make a play. Instead of doing their job, they make a mistake, which allows another team to have some success. And so there's so much you can learn from doing that and winning. It's hard to talk about that when you don't get it done and you lose. You still teach that way. There's a lot we can learn from that fourth quarter in good and bad ways, but there's nothing like winning to allow you to believe that you can do it again. When you achieve something that you haven't done for so long, it's a great positive thing. It's a great positive feeling that comes out of it when you do finally get it done. There's no question about that.
Gary Andersen is the head coach at Oregon State. They host Utah Saturday at 1 at Reser. So take us back to your connection with Kyle Whittingham. I'm not sure how far back that goes.
Ooh, way back to the early 90s. Idaho State, when I was coaching junior college offensive line, he gave me an opportunity to coach the defensive line along with the head coach at Idaho State, Brian McNeely, and I coached the defensive line for the first for the 2 years there at Idaho State, and that's where I got to know Kyle. I called him and I said, hey, I want to be the D-line coach if you'll hire me, and he said, don't do it. Stay where you're at. You're at a great place. I said, I'm coming. So that was the beginning of the relationship, and I grew from there. I had an opportunity to obviously coach with Kyle for a long time at Utah, and left to go to Southern Utah when Coach McBride had got let go at Utah. I was a young coach and had some true feelings there for Mac, and so I took off for a year and then came back, and then we were there together all the way through until the time I left at Utah State. But it's much deeper than just coaching. Through friendship, and our families are very close. Our wives are very close, and he's a special person in my life.
He seems like a great guy. We meet him every year at Pac12 Media Day. What makes him so good as a coach?
Well, I think he has a plan, and he has a plan for that place. And there's unique fits. And from what I believe, wherever you're at, there's a unique fit, and he understands that unique fit at the University of Utah. It's the exact fit that we took to Utah State, and it was the fit that Lavelle Edwards and Ron McBride basically built at Utah and at BYU. And he stays with that plan. He recruits through toughness and builds toughness through the team. If you're not a tough guy, you won't survive. He doesn't really care if you survive or not. You're going to fit into the plan, and if you want to be part of the plan, you'll be part of the plan and the team. And if you're not, then you can find another place to go. I think he's demanding with the kids off the field as well as he is on the field, and he knows that there's ups and downs and good days and bad days. He had a tremendous challenge when he had to move into the Pac-12 that was tough sledding for a long period of time, and I've learned a lot just in my short time here of leaning on where he was when he came into this league as far as moving from the Mountain West into the Pac-12, and the ideas and the philosophies that they carried in as they tried to build and get themselves in the new facility and building themselves up. That team can stand toe-to-toe, hand-to-hand with anybody in the country. They proved that last year with Michigan. They proved that this year against SC. They have the talent and the physicality to win any football game, and that's how he likes to build it. I'm a firm believer in that philosophy as well.
Yeah, so you said you're leaning on kind of Utah's experience moving over to the Pac-12. How do you climb the ladder in the Pac-12? I mean, what are some things that you're looking at in terms of how to get that done?
Well, specifically, if we talk just about football, we need to recruit length. You have to have length all over the field in this league. In my opinion, I'm not saying that some smaller guys can't survive in certain spots. You can't have four really small corners, but you can have a small corner. You can't have 4 or 5 really small wide receivers, but you can have a small wide receiver. But overall, you need to be a long team that covers the field. You need to be a team that can really run on offense and defense to survive in this league. And defensively, you have to have an elite pass rush. If you're going to make big strides in this league and get to the point where you can play for the championship on your side, just in my own opinion, you have to be able to have elite ability to put pressure on the quarterback week in and week out. And you need the back end too, no question. But you've got to be able to do that, and then I think there's certain weeks you've got to recruit to have those guys that can be run stoppers. And if you're just all run stoppers and no pass rushers, or if you're all pass rushers and no run stoppers, you're going to have a real problem on this league on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, I think you have to be an offense that is diverse, that can throw the ball and run the ball, but there's going to be times when you have to score 40 points or more in this league, and that's how this league is built. So our goal moving forward is to consider us in recruiting. We want to recruit kids that are going to allow us to average 40 points a game, because that's what the best teams and the teams that win this league, that's what they've done for many, many years as far as getting themselves in the position to win. And then very solid on special teams, recruit special teams. You can't just sit back and say, hey, we're going to have 3 kids come in here and walk on special teams and hopefully one of them be our kicker and our punter. You have to recruit to the kicker, the punter, and you have to recruit to obviously in all those positions of special teams, returners and so on, to make you change the game of special teams in your favor.
All right, so Utah, let's fast forward. You guys are going in feeling good mentally, but X's and O's wise, what do you have to do? What are a couple of key things you have to do to beat Utah?
Well, on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be very tough sledding within the gaps, within those tackle gaps. We have to get the ball to the perimeter in the run game. That's going to be essential for us. Doesn't mean you can't run the ball within the tackles, but there's very talented players, next-level defenders in that area that are very good, and they've proven that week in and week out, year in and year out. You have to earn your stripes to have a chance to run within the tackle box. So getting the ball in the perimeter in the run game and having success will be key. Protecting, I would say in our league, they're elite in putting pressure on the quarterback and have been for a number of years. You better get the ball out fast if you think you're going to drop back and sit there and hold the ball for 4 seconds, especially with with us and where we're sitting right now. We've got to get the ball out, and our kids have got to make plays in the throw game. It won't be if it's like last week where we just hey, we're gonna pound you to death forever and go win this game. It'll be much more difficult, tough sledding in the run game, and on defense we have to be able to stop the run first, and we have to be able to deal with the dynamic playmakers they have. They have some big tall wide receivers, and we've got some issues right there on the backfield in the back end right now on defense with numbers, but it is what it is. No one's going to feel sorry for us, so we've got to put our kids out there and get them in a spot to be able to play. And then I would say this, crucial for this game, it sounds like you're going to have to adjust to the weather. Yeah. And it looks like it's going to be a very difficult day weather-wise, and so I hope it's like that on Friday so we can practice on Friday with what it's going to be like in the game.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be. Have you had, what is the worst weather game you've ever coached in?
Oh, no question. Well, what is cold-wise would be Wisconsin and Minnesota. It was minus 20-something, crystal clear, blue skies, but it was obnoxiously cold. And that was the toughest game I've ever played in. And then I've played in some, sloppy games where there's rain and there's snow and so on and so forth, which is obviously a whole different set of problems than just cold, clear day. But not a bunch of them, but this one could be very interesting from what the weather guys are telling us right now, that it could be very windy, which is always difficult. And then on top of that, potentially pretty too, so that'll be a factor, and you just have to understand that things are going to happen, and it's not going to function the way that it does on a crystal clear day where it's 75 degrees and no wind. It's going to be different, and you have to deal with the flows of the game.
Right. One last question I have for you. As a fan watching college football on Saturdays, a lot of people are starting to get annoyed, and I've noticed too, at how long these games are taking. Are you noticing on the sideline the length of games at all? Does that come into play for you?
Well, our last game was 4 hours and 3 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was an overtime game, but that game was extremely long. I really was surprised when I looked at it. I don't notice that during the game, but we did all we could. I thought our offense did a fantastic job. Part of the game plan was to try to snap the ball with 5 seconds left on the clock to keep the ball out of those guys' hands, and we did that throughout the game, and very successful in the first quarter. Not quite as successful in the second, but still successful. Third quarter was still pretty good, and the fourth quarter was not. But I was shocked with, I don't know if I've ever been involved in a 4-hour game, especially when one side is trying to bleed every second off the clock. So it was long. Yeah. And there was a lot of reviews and scenarios, but I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not changing that.
Yeah. Would you be for college starting the clock on a first down, though?
Yeah, I would not be opposed to that at all. I think it's good for the kids, especially now we have 12 games. With a 13th game of conference championship and all the stuff that comes with it after that. So I would not be against that. Speeding up the game a little bit, I think, would be good.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Thanks a lot. Good luck against Utah, and congrats on the win.
I appreciate it very much. Go Beavs.
The Gare Bear. Isn't he great? And he gave us a great drop from last weekend.
Go Beavers. How about that?
I was wondering if you were going to play that for him or not.
I thought about it. But,
Well, I know, but
that'd be like playing a clip of our show for me or Suk. Yeah, I know. I was
right, but I was seriously thinking maybe he didn't even see it back. He just did it in the moment, and it'd make him smile.
Go Beavers! How about that?
Man, what a win! Well, I think it's going to be tough sledding against Utah, but as he mentioned, the weather that might actually work in Oregon State's favor. Let's come back, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll move on at the top of the hour. It's 3:49. This is The Fan.